What's up, everybody? This is Cristian Perez from the Red River Rivalry podcast. Just wanted to give a quick update on the channel. We're switching over to SoundCloud, so it's going to be a while until you hear us again on Spotify, but you're going to see us upload regularly on YouTube and SoundCloud. So make sure to drop a like, share, subscribe. Just listen to what we got to say.
Yeah, I already did the whole Ferengi thing last episode, so that's all you're getting from us on that. So let's dive right in. We wanted to talk mostly about this time why baseball is Christian's favorite sport and why soccer is mine. So that's where we're going with where we're going on this one. So that's you want to talk about baseball first, Christian?
Yeah, let's talk about baseball. All right, so this past weekend, or last week, we had the All-Star week. It comes with a lot of different events. One of those events is the Home Run Derby. If you might have noticed, the Home Run Derby was switched up and changed a lot. It's no longer the 10-pitch kind of thing where you have 10 outs and that's it. So it's very different. You have about 3 minutes to hit as many home runs as you can.
From what I remember, it was 3 minutes in every round except the championship round, and then the championship round was 2 minutes, I think. Because I originally wasn't going to tune in, but since I had nothing to do while it was on live, I ended up tuning into like the second half of the Home Run Derby. So it's
a lot more athletic, to say the very least.
Yeah, I really, really miss the old format, but when we were talking about this off air, it kind of makes sense why they made the changes they have, but it feels really, really soulless to switch it to time because it makes it feel like they're just trying to compress it for advertising, man.
Well, yeah, that's one point, but there's also another point which you're going to bring up later on in the episode, and I think you have a really good view on it, and the analogy that you're going to compare it to is spot on.
Oh, God. Now I'm trying to remember what I said off air.
I think you remembered. But, overall, I think the Home Run Derby and All-Star Week went by, and they did a really great job. It's usually right around the middle of the summer, 4th of July. It's one of those things that you want to remember, and it's almost as American as the 4th of July.
Yeah, and from my perspective, no matter how disconnected I get from baseball, it's usually always been mandatory viewing for me. But with some of these changes, especially to the Home Run Derby in recent years, I've kind of, and from having to work even harder for my living, in recent years after getting married, it's like I've gotten more disconnected in recent years. So. Crap, I forgot where I was going.
Yeah, I understand. Like, you lose track of the sport because it's not on the top of your list. On the top of our list is going to be always, Longhorn or OU sports. Yeah. We're trying to keep up with all the new recruits, all the
And to give a shout out to format change, just keep track of how the sports we love are being played. I mean,
yeah. And then for Sean, you have a lot of interest in soccer, and I think that's probably
that is almost one of the problems with baseball's All-Star Weekend is that in soccer summers, because international soccer tournaments are my favorite thing in the world, so it's like they got lucky this year that it was after Euro 2020 was over, if I'm even remembering that right. Or it's like at the very least I didn't have soccer to catch up on that day with the Home Run Derby. So, and I really do. I've always bizarrely liked the softball celebrity game that ESPN airs after that. And it's always kind of weird how, they in real life they play it earlier in the day that afternoon. So it always looks weird that it's daytime for a nighttime broadcast. But everybody gets over that. It's just a fun, crazy outing with celebrities and former pros, and it's one of those events. It's not for everybody, but if you like it, it's you like spending a couple hours on it every year. It's one of those it's one of those things that if we actually were famous, I would definitely play it.
Yeah, it's one of those recent things that they've tried to plug and suck as much money as they can possibly get from all the sponsors.
Speaking of sucking out as much money as possible, that was bullshit having All-Star Game jerseys this year. Baseball was the last one standing, having everybody wear their real jerseys. I mean, I miss it like hell in the NBA having players wear their actual jerseys in the All-Star Game. I mean, come on, man.
Oh, what are you talking about? The NBA, you have some of the most classic All-Star jerseys, the old San Antonio 90s jerseys.
I know some of the design.
Some of the jerseys from the 2000, man. Some of those have,
okay, I know some of
those are fashion statements now.
Okay, I know some of the designs are really, really, really cool, but I'm just saying, I mean, my favorite All-Star game is always going to be the 2003 All-Star game, MJ's last.
Well, you still have the NBA Futures game where they wear their jerseys. Come on, man.
Do they even still wear them in that one? I mean, come on, man.
Pretty sure they do.
But anyways, I'm trying to remember. It was probably before 2003 because I think 2003 was post the Gary Payton Ray Allen trade. But there was one of them where I actually got to see my boy Gary Payton play in the best uniform in NBA history in the All-Star game, the last version of the Seattle Supersonics program. That dark green.
Well,
I mean, not to mention this is really weird coming from an Oklahoman because I mean, we stole the damn Sonics of the Thunder now. I mean, I was so pissed we didn't get to keep the green and yellow color scheme, man. And I feel for the Seattle fan base, man. I mean, the Clippers should have relocated to Seattle by now, man. They deserve their team back.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to the topic, I think the MLB did a really great job with the All-Star game and the different events this year.
And I'll admit I didn't watch it this year because I was working too hard to bother with a 3-hour baseball game in the middle of my work week. So
yeah, I had the game on while I was studying, but when the home run derby was on, I actually paid attention to that. It was one unique event, and it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I might hate the format changes. I might hate them playing in a bracket now because, I mean, you want the best performers to advance to every round. But, I mean, what I did see of the second half of the home run derby, it outside of the annoyance of them having to do it as fast as they do with the whole, okay, as soon as the ball of this home run is in the air, the next pitch is being thrown. I mean, that's kind of good, kind of bad because, I mean, some home runs you really want to savor, and it's like ESPN has to change the camera basically before the home run that's been hit is even landing. So
on the opposite side of that, you don't have to spend 4 hours watching people hit. Like it can be pretty dry sometimes. I remember one of my favorite home run derby moments was the Josh Hamilton 28 home runs in the first round. And
at the old Yankee Stadium.
I remember that vividly. I was in Mexico visiting my grandparents. My grandpa watched it with me. We were both in awe of everything that was going on. He had no idea that Josh Hamilton was breaking records. And we both got to bond over that.
Right.
And it was an incredible moment. But, I mean, if you really look back, the average viewer is not going to have, 3 to 4 hours to spend in their life to watch that whole thing. I mean, you even said it.
Which is kind of baseball's problem in general. I mean, it's easier to watch one of the catalog of awesome baseball movies in 2 hours than to watch an actual 3-hour game. I mean, that's one of the weird, unique problems to baseball.
Like you said, it's you have a life. You have stuff to do. You can't just like even basketball, which is one of the fastest. I don't know. Actually, soccer, which is one of the fastest sports to watch.
1 hour format, 2 hours of real time when you include halftime. I mean, soccer is the easiest sport to follow for the working man. I mean,
but sometimes that you don't have that 2 hours to watch, right?
Right. I mean, on a work night, sometimes I have to watch the first half, go to bed, catch the second half in the morning or the next day or something like that. Especially with gridiron football, because it's the same problem as baseball. It's just more in demand because it's shorter supply.
Do you want to go ahead and announce it, Sean?
We have the NBA Finals on in the background because with our other games, we've been going around Cincinnati Reds games, but we've been turning them off to focus. But in real time during this recording, the Bucks have just put the finishing touches on winning the 2021 NBA title. They're about to lift the Larry O'Brien Trophy, and oh man, if you told me in 2011 that the Milwaukee Bucks were going to win a championship and Aaron Rodgers would not have a second Super Bowl ring yet, I would have punched you in the face, man. But on the flip side of that coin, I am so happy for my Green Bay Packers fan base. They deserve every bit of this.
I really don't like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, well, how many tangents do we want to get on this thing?
Hey man. Hashtag Dez caught it for life.
Dude,
Dez caught it.
How do you catch it when it swings out?
Dez caught it.
Oh my god.
Is it illegal?
Save it for the episode we actually do the Green Bay Dallas rivalry, okay?
All right. Well, I'm really happy for Giannis. Like he's crying on the bench right now, man. Like that's a lot of emotion. This guy just worked his ass off to win a championship. Like,
not to mention this.
He really deserves it. I'm glad he's having this moment.
Not to mention, thankfully, this probably solidifies his loyalty for staying in his small market. Because, I mean, obviously, even though basketball is probably my fourth choice sport, I mean, Kevin Durant bailing on us with the bailing on us to go to Golden State is still probably going to be one of the biggest sports pains of my entire life.
Dude, if he wouldn't have won this, like, he would have probably gone somewhere else.
Eventually, I mean...
No. There was talks of him leaving Milwaukee.
Yeah,
like,
well, some of that is just the media wanting him in a bigger market, and some of that's legitimate. I mean, still, those things happen. I mean...
There was a good chance he could have left.
Yeah, well...
I mean, there's still a chance that he could leave.
Yeah, I mean, full confession and somewhat self-promotion... one of my recent vocal articles was actually about 2K killing the servers for 2K19.
What's vocal?
It's a writing platform for freelance writing where normal people like us can write articles. So basically, New Year's Day this year, 2K killed the servers for 2K19 because, I mean, obviously it's an annual release title. They want people buying the newer titles, so... And because of my Thunder were kind of in shambles, I decided to play with the Bucks because, I mean, I wanted to be Giannis's point guard. I wanted to play with Chris Middleton. I wanted to help that team achieve this. And, I mean, now they've done it. I mean, it's bonkers, man.
Well, yeah, man. Congratulations, Milwaukee Bucks. Back on track. I thought the home run derby was actually really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I was a little scared that some of the players might have injured themselves because of the rate the balls were going. Like it was just one after another.
I mean, which is kind of weird because the whole part of the point of or part of the justification for switching to the clock is safety for reducing how much you have to hit. But I mean, changing the way you hit is just as important because I mean it seems like it'd be more taxing.
One of the things I think Johnny Bench said yesterday when we were watching the Reds was that he was afraid that you couldn't really see the home runs. You couldn't really get a good perspective.
Yeah, which is exactly what I was saying without realizing you'd said it yesterday about wanting to savor home runs and not being able to do it. And I mean,
yeah. So maybe,
I know I've mentioned it before, but Johnny Bench is my boy. He's why I root for the Reds. My dad's from Caddo County. His home area. So I mean, obviously we got lucky that when I was first paying attention was right after the Ken Griffey Jr. trade. But I mean, like I said, I shouldn't be repeating this too much.
Maybe if ESPN or whoever hosted, I think it was Fox, whoever hosts the
Home Run Derby is ESPN, All-Star Game is Fox.
Well, whoever hosts it, they can come up with some kind of new camera angle that would better suit the Home Run Derby.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to figure that out over time, but still, it's kind of challenging. Like, and and in some ways, if you could just cut one commercial per commercial break and show more commercials of the best home run of a round. I mean, that'd be at least be something.
Yeah, and what they do right now is they have like the kind of like NFL red zone kind of thing where they have like the main event going on in the box, and then around it, it's like the commercial.
Simulcasts are surprisingly being more and more popular all the time, and I'm loving it, man. I mean,
I trust whoever is in charge of the editing and the just like video will find some kind of way to
they
do
know
it.
it's a problem, and they're eventually going to come up with solutions for it. Or either that, or MLB is just going to add more time to the clock to try to get the hitters to let people savor them more or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's to kind of slow down, but then you're gonna have people that are really competitive.
Yeah, which another thing was is that I was scared it was going to be reducing the total home runs, but those guys were cranking them out, man. I was surprised some of these guys were getting over 20 within 2 and 3 minutes. I mean, it was insane.
Well, you want to look at what Pete Alonso did. He's won this thing twice in a row now. This year, his pitcher was throwing strikes. They were all down the middle, straight perfectly down the middle.
Which that is one of the novelty things we've lost, is that it's kind of harder for a guy's dad to be the pitcher now, because you kind of have to have your batting practice guy do it since with the more competitive format.
Well, if I had somebody throwing me pitches down the middle, I would prefer to have a professional doing it rather than somebody that I was really close to, because there's $1 million like purse.
Right,
to take away.
That's one of the best storylines of this format, is that Pete Alonso's basically doubled or tripled his pay just from winning these home run derbies, because he's still on league minimum. I mean, he's in a. Is he in his contract year, or is he just on rookie contract?
He's still on his contract. Yeah.
Oh man.
So it's basically like,
and that's still one of the bonkers things about baseball, is the way college wraps up baseball so damn early. It's like a guy could literally win the College World Series and the actual World Series in the same calendar year if he was good enough to go from the College World Series immediately into the minors, ace AA and AAA in a month, and then be on the big league team. I mean, I don't know if it's ever happened. It might not ever happen, but it's bonkers that that's possible. Like, I mean, it's like trying to say somebody's going to win the college football playoff and the Super Bowl in the same year. That's insane.
Well, they could technically win their high school championship, their like the state championship. They can win.
The ones that get to skip college entirely.
They could win their, or if they wanted to go to college, they could win their high school state championship, their NCAA World Series championship, and then the World Series all within 3 years.
Which in one positive,
that would be crazy.
Which in one positive for baseball, if the College World Series can gradually increase in popularity over the years and possibly even overtake March Madness, as the best talent in March Madness flocks to the G League and that kind of thing, it would be a huge coup for baseball if that kind of thing got more popular. I mean,
well, we talked about it. We talked about it in the last episode where the NCAA players now can get
name, image, likeness. So
they can control their profit
off
their money.
We really only talked about that from the football angle, but it's going to be up and down across all sports. I mean, there's already some gymnast at LSU she's
capitalized off her first contract.
Yeah, I mean, she's basically an Instagram model, and she's going to get to be paid as an Instagram model while she's doing this, and it's like. Yeah, I mean, she's going to get paid more for her looks on Instagram than she is ever going to get paid for being an Olympic gymnast. So, I mean, that's kind of backwards, but it's also fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of business you have to start off, like, while you have the talent to do it.
Yeah, back to our NBA tangent since it's on. Have they announced who's finals MVP yet? As if it's going to be anybody other than the Giants?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I am really happy for him. I mean, I know it's just video games, but I mean, playing with this team on 2K19 is probably one of the best video game experiences I've had on, the previous generation of consoles now. But
at the midway into the Eastern Conference Finals, he was injured, and we weren't sure if he was going to come back. I don't remember what his injury was, but it is really impressive to see him be able to come back and dominate in this finals.
Oh man, just look what it means to him to quote. Dang it, he's one of my favorite soccer commentators, and his name jumped out of my head. Martin Tyler. As Martin Tyler has said on like the last 15 editions of FIFA, just look what it means to him.
So talking about FIFA, I want to talk a little bit about the world of sports, because the world of sports has...
Especially since we've gone so far on the NBA tangent.
Yeah, the world of sports has just grown. And ESPN has pretty much capitalized on this. But, you know, the world has gotten a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And so you can get all types of information at a
like
click of a button.
Like during your first round game when we were just hanging out watching your Mavericks, how I was looking up the time zones and telling you that this was breakfast time for the Slovenians to watch Doncic. So yeah.
So basketball is now popular in a lot of different countries. Baseball,
it's probably the world's most global game outside of soccer. Since it's that simple too.
Baseball has been trying to get into the...
Which, because of Japan's massive love affair with baseball's been international longer, but...
Well, not just Japan. A lot of the Asian countries...
South Korea...
the South American countries have gotten into baseball. Like, baseball has a world championship.
Yeah.
And it's pretty
That's
big.
actually one of my favorite memories of Ken Griffey Jr., the very first World Baseball Classic, him hitting grand slams against South Africa. And that's why he changed his number in 2007, because he had to wear number 3 for the USA, and then he shows up to spring training and he's like, hey, this was good mojo, let's just keep this going. So he changed his number from 30 to number 3 for the Reds.
Yeah, so the thing is, which sport do you think is going to be the biggest sport? I think soccer will definitely still be king, but what do you think will be the second biggest sport, or tied with soccer, in the next 10 years?
Okay. You don't want to guarantee, but I think soccer being the number one sport of the world is as guaranteed as anything ever could be.
What about do you think baseball would be able to surpass it, to tie it, to come in as a close second?
Well, the trouble is baseball is actually kind of in danger in our country because of...
Wait, why do you say that?
Well, so many people are tuning it out just because of how hard it is to follow on the time scale. But
how would you explain it?
Well, one of the reasons I'm so excited for soccer is that I feel like we've completely overtaken baseball at this point.
Do you think there are any cultural references that would tie this up in a bow?
Okay, well...
Something maybe dealing with Star Trek?
Yeah, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, if you are unaware, is the best Star Trek series. And the captain on that show is one of the best African-American fiction characters in history. He is the captain of a space station for Starfleet. Eventually, they give him a ship on top of that. It's kind of bullshit. He started out as only a commander, but they do promote him to captain. But the big thing for African-American culture, I'm speaking out of turn as a white guy talking about it, but since we don't have an African-American here, one of the biggest things for African-American culture with this character is that he is an amazing family man. He is a very rare adaptation of a great family man in media of, sadly, any era, but especially his era.
Especially on a starship, which is... Like, if you've ever listened to Rocket Man, it's hard to raise family out in space.
Yeah, Elton John puts that best, and it's a little different for Sisko in that he gets to take his son Jake Sisko with him and live on the space station with him, whereas in real life, any real life astronaut doesn't have that option yet. But anyways, baseball is Captain Sisko's big favorite sport, and Star Trek kind of predicted in the 90s the downfall of baseball in that, Star Trek predicted that people would be losing interest, that our attention span was going to shorten, and that it was going to be harder for people to follow baseball. But bizarrely, on the flip side of that, they also predicted everybody going to London and internationalization, because Captain Sisko's favorite player actually plays for the London Kings, Buck Bowtie. Switch hitting third baseman, if I remember correctly, and in Star Trek history, he overtakes the all-time home run record, which is kind of weird for that to happen for a London franchise. Which implies it's also a Major League Baseball franchise for it to count. And
I'm sure the record back then was still held by Hank Aaron.
Yeah, in Star Trek's continuity, I don't believe Barry Bonds broke it with steroids. That's just not fair. I mean, especially with the eugenics war being in Star Trek's histories in the 90s. So the steroid era of baseball would have been completely different just because that was going on in their real world. So in their real world, if anybody had a chance, it would have been Ken Griffey Jr. or Alex Rodriguez. But I mean, this is a crazy ass tangent.
Hey, it would have been Ken Griffey Jr. because again, A-Rod was a huge steroid user.
I ended up hitting over 1,100 or 1,200 home runs with the dude on MVP Baseball 2005, the best baseball video game of all time, by the way. But
yeah, man, those baseball games are a lot better than the show. I've just hated
the show is one of our best video game franchises currently. They are working very hard, and they have improved greatly. I mean, I have never actually gotten to play it because I'm an Xbox guy, and they only just now recently switched to where they're on Xbox. So if I actually do upgrade for FIFA, the show is going to be one of my first purchases on the new console generation, because I mean I desperately want to play around with that stadium creator they've got this year.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, but I think you might be right. Baseball might be but headed in the opposite direction.
Because to finish off Captain Sisko, while he was celebrating Buck Bowtie, he was telling Jake or somebody how disappointed he was that in Buck Bowtie's greatest game, like only 1,100 people showed up for the World Series game, and that's just sadly bonkers and altogether possible. I mean, but then again, we're also.
I don't think 1,100 people showing up for a World Series game.
I mean, it might have been 11,000, but it was somewhere in that neighborhood. And
I don't think that's actually possible.
I was trying to Google to see if anybody had a good source for just Captain Sisko's baseball quotes, but the one that came up with Google I like is from the baseball specific episode from season 7. I mean, kind of spoiler alert, but you need it for the context here. So basically, Star Trek is in a war arc in this point in the show, and they're kind of in a dead period of the war while both sides are strategizing, and there's this Vulcan ship docked at the space station, and the captain of this Vulcan ship is one of Sisko's rivals from Starfleet Academy days, and basically the Vulcan captain had wounded Sisko's pride, and he challenges Sisko to a baseball game. So Sisko and all his friends, Sisko has to teach all of his friends baseball overnight, whereas this guy has been playing baseball with his Vulcan friends for like a month or two just to be prepared to humiliate Sisko, right? So, and anyways, for Sisko pumping up his baseball team here for the episode Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Which, by the way, I have to say, that's kind of like uncharacteristic for Vulcan to want to like humiliate.
Yeah. And another thing that's weird about Sisko too is that specifically with the African American population, baseball has been losing tons of popularity now. I mean, Torrey Hunter has waxed philosophical on that in real life about how the population of African American players in the majors has gone from like 15% when he started playing to basically almost nothing, and it's sad and depressing because I mean, in some ways that's just because of how much more popular football and basketball and soccer and everything else has been, in that, and it's like the African American athlete just isn't playing baseball anymore, and that's why the RBI initiative to get baseball into the inner cities is so important.
I feel like that is only half of the story, because now in baseball you have a majority of the players, at least more than 50% of the players, have a Hispanic surname.
Well, that's true. The Hispanic percentage going up, yeah.
And you can see that a lot of players are coming from Latin American countries, which means that I feel like it's more the fact that we have a bigger Latin American population coming into the MLB versus, it's less of a African American or just American population in general, because if a lot of like 50% of the baseball population is going to be coming from a different country, then yeah, overall
it's going to cut down on Americans in general, not just African Americans.
Yeah.
Then we're also eventually there'll probably be more foreign-born. I'm trying to figure out how to say this in 2021, but I mean, eventually there will be more foreign-born players of color playing the game too. I mean, especially if this game were to get popular in Africa, that would be a big coup for baseball as well. Because
if you, there's a lot of players that are, darker skin tone, if you want to say.
Yeah, that's what I was searching for.
Like, they come from the Dominican Republic, Cuba, from Puerto Rico.
Which maybe that's what the doom and gloomers of baseball are underestimating, is that with the globalization of the world in general and in sports, there's more room for more sports. So it's like, okay, maybe baseball, when all the dust has settled on our generation, will only be the 5th or 6th choice sport in the world. But I mean, the world could support lots and lots of sports. I mean, okay, say maybe it ends up being soccer, basketball, eventually gridiron football, if gridiron football can even survive and take over take over the world.
I think football is on a downward spiral right now.
Well, it is sad with how the safety issues in football are killing it, and I have to admit that's one of the reasons why I called time on my football career early.
It doesn't mean soccer is any less dangerous.
That's true. That's something. That's what people forget too. I mean, you can get concussions just as easily in soccer, especially from heading the ball. I mean,
from getting hit from other players, from sliding, and someone sitting on you.
Yeah, the ignorant people don't realize just how brutal a slide challenge can be. And I mean, considering I came from a desert climate here in the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandles, we never really got into even learning how to slide challenge perfectly because it's just that brutal on your legs. But
that's why I think the defenders in soccer are actually the least smart on the team. My cousin was a defender. He's not that bright.
Dude, come on. You have to say that when you know I'm a member of the center backs union. Come on, man.
Hey, man. Striker, midfield, center mid, smartest players on the team, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I mean, I was a big guy. I mean, my biggest problem athletically is not being able to say no to the buffet. So, I mean, obviously I was a big candidate for the offensive line. That's what everybody wanted me to be. Everybody wanted me to be the greatest offensive lineman in my school's history. But I'm sorry, soccer is just the sport I love more. I mean, football is brutal. No matter how much you love it, watching it is very difficult to play. And you actually have to love playing it to be good playing at it. And I mean, I had a knee injury sophomore year of my high school football career. And I mean, I rehabbed. I tried to come back for the junior year. And I mean, that's actually one of the goofy things about sports is that, I mean, high school football is a year-round sport now. And that, for kids that age, it's weird. So it's like, if I could have had a proper offseason and come to my realization sooner, I could have properly retired in that summer instead of Andrew Luck retiring that fall. I mean,
the only year-round sport there should be is track, cross country.
Which I should have embraced more to get my fitness down. It's like I was between a rock and a hard place because while I was trying to do football and soccer both, it was basically football coaches trying to keep me fat for offensive line versus me trying to lose weight for soccer. And it's like, that was just brutal, man. I mean, that's incompatible. If I'd been at a bigger high school, I feel like I would have had a chance to be a blocking tight end. Because, I mean, that was what I actually practiced in my free time. That's what I loved. I loved running routes. I loved catching the ball. I mean, it might not have lasted very long because I would have had to learn how to actually be tackled. And, I mean, people underestimate how hard it is just to embrace advancing the ball and being tackled. But I mean, I was learning the basics well, and I mean one smart thing our youth program did when I was in junior high is that we had a camp where it didn't matter your body size. Everybody did the drills for every position because, as our one of our coaches put it, he put it, well, right now you're 7th graders. And yeah, you've got your certain body types now, but you're also in puberty. So we don't know what your body type's going to be when you're a junior or senior. We don't know what you're going to need to know when you're actually playing for this team. So honestly, so let's teach everybody the basics of everything, and during this camp, and then I mean during the actual season, obviously we'll just focus on your actual position. But I mean, it's just one of those things. I think that's where youth football has to go in the future.
Yeah, it has to be more neutral. It has to be more aimed towards the mechanics, more aimed towards fundamentals, like which I hated. I also hated about when I played soccer. It's the same thing with soccer, dude. They want you to be as flashy as possible, and like the players that do the cool little tricks.
That's just some people's opinions of style, but I get what you're saying. I mean, if you're trying to play for Brazil and you're not flashy, they won't love you.
No. I'm saying this coming from like a club team perspective.
Yeah, I know, but it was the example I'm thinking. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like from a youth club team perspective,
and people don't realize how regionalized soccer is because I mean, like that's a very South American attitude. I mean, with globalization.
No. It's not a South American attitude. It's an American attitude now.
Yeah, well, I was just going to point out that I mean there is differences. I mean, like Asian soccer, for example, is much more focused on grinding out the result and being the best team you can be.
I'm not saying like professional soccer. I'm talking about like developmental soccer.
Right.
Yeah, so like that's what happens in these developmental leagues now. You want the most flashy kid because he shows the most promise, but you don't want the one that runs the fastest, that knows exactly where he's supposed to be on the field.
And we've got to get past pay to play. I mean, anybody that follows soccer knows that's a part of the problem. I mean, I mean, having a barrier on the best soccer development is a problem.
So I think the reason why you think that is because you grew up in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma,
and we didn't even have that option. Like.
Yeah.
If I had been Clint Dempsey, I would have been having to drive either here or Oklahoma City to play for a club team. Yeah, which is essentially what Clint Dempsey had to do. He had to drive like 3 hours every day to Dallas just to play for his club team.
That's the thing about Clint Dempsey. Other people were paying for him.
Like he was scholarship on his club.
Yeah,
team.
he was scholarship, and that's what you get in Dallas too. Like,
but not all. Go ahead.
I grew up in Dallas, and that's what a lot of the teams like did. They saw the flashiest kid. That's who they wanted to pay for.
Yeah, but not all youth soccer leagues have scholarship opportunities, and some of them really are just about the profit.
Exactly, and that's the thing about it. Like the bigger the market you grow up in, the easier it is to play soccer. Like I understand the whole pay to play, but it's also like it depends where you live.
Right, and I mean we were bizarrely in because our demographics in our town are like 80% Hispanic, so. We were a hotbed of soccer passion, but we were on the bottom possible of soccer infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah,
we've always had quality high school soccer teams. My groups in particular, I think the farthest we ever got, which I should, as a caveat, I never actually played for the first team outside of one game and one friendly. I basically got to score 2 penalty kicks as a sideshow, and that was my soccer career. So I mean, but the sad thing was because we were on the most talented team in the district and the district champions, I felt like I could have started at center back for half of the district at least. So I mean, that's just one of those things that eats your lunch, man, as a player.
So besides the developmental qualms that we both have with our respective sports, what do you think is going to be the next biggest sport behind soccer?
Well,
so football is going to be always like a regional kind of thing. I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, until soccer completely conquers our country to be number one, gridiron football is not going anywhere.
Well, I'm talking about worldwide.
Yeah, I know, but I'm starting from our perspective and going outward.
I'm talking about like behind soccer. worldwide, which sport is going to make?
I feel like basketball is going to be a solid number 2. It has a lot of soccer-like characteristics in its favor. I mean,
it's really big in Europe right now.
it is theoretically the cheapest sport to play because all you have to have is a hoop and a ball. That's obviously part of why it's so easy for Africa and Asia and Europe and South America to catch up on basketball.
Europe doesn't really. It's not that rich if you really look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
People in Europe aren't that rich.
That is a misnomer about geography that people don't realize. I mean, we're used to focusing on the Premier League. We're used to focusing on England, Spain, France, Germany, Italy. But there's a whole lot of poor Europe in the other countries. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's really popular in Europe.
So
Latin America. Do you think? Argentina is really good at basketball.
I mean,
what about baseball? Do you think baseball will keep its number 2 spot in the world?
Or number 3 spot in America, number 3 spot in the world, kind of, if we're giving them that much credit.
Well, I feel like you're focusing a lot on the American.
Well, I have to start
market.
from our viewpoint and work outwards, because obviously outside of when I got to live in Germany and vacation in Switzerland during that time, I haven't been to the rest of the world. So, I mean, I have a lot of international online friends because that's the joys of globalization in the modern era. But I mean, you know where you're from better than you know anywhere else. And I'm trying not to speak for everybody everywhere else too much. I mean, I don't want to be talking out of turn for anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So, basketball number 2.
Basketball solid number 2 for both the world and the U.S. right now. I mean, as gridiron football's health problems continue to plague it, basketball can eventually overtake gridiron football in this country. And from there, does gridiron football stay number 2 in this country long enough to survive is the question. And I mean, I feel like no matter how safety conscious we get, there's always going to be enough people that love violence and need a socially acceptable outreach for their violence, that gridiron football is always going to have a home. It's just, we've got to find a healthier way to play it. And I mean, that's practically impossible.
I'm sorry, man.
But then again, hockey's got the same problems, and hockey's not going anywhere. I mean,
hockey's going to be popular within like cold countries.
Yeah, hockey's always going to be northern hemisphere popular.
I don't think football is going anywhere up. I think it's a downhill spiral from here.
Yeah, it's on top. It's on top of the mountains, staring at a decline. That's for sure.
On top of the mountains.
In America, in
America, in the world, it's like probably like, if you want to compare mountains, maybe you can talk about the highest mountain in the Appalachian.
Yeah. Worldwide, it's the little mountain that has so much ambition, and
it's the little mountain that has been capitalizing on American exceptionalism for the past 30 years.
That's true. I mean, nobody's ever going to know this because it's just barely making its way onto the NFL Network, but there's technically already a World Cup of football, and right now all we have to do is send Division II and Division III college guys to win the thing. But I mean, there are some professional leagues in the rest of the world. I want to say Brazil and Germany are 2 of the better ones. I mean, the rest of the world has somewhat embraced gridiron football. I wish the NFL would bring NFL Europe back, honestly, as a developmental league. I mean, the NFL has got to, especially since they're pushing the international initiative so hard. I mean, I'm hoping that's where we're going with the 17th game, man. I'm hoping the 17th game, after we do AFC home team this year, NFC home team next year on the 17th game, hopefully in the year after that, which would be 2023, hopefully once we've got the pandemic completely behind us, I hope the 17th game is how we do the international games in the future in the NFL. Because, I mean, let's be honest, that's the only way my Green Bay Packers are ever going to play in London, because nobody's ever going to give up their road game with us, and we're never going to give up a home game.
The Dallas Cowboys are the most popular football team in the world.
debatable. Packers everywhere. The Packers are everywhere. The Steelers are everywhere. The Steelers are everywhere. The Patriots are everywhere. I mean, the Bucks are the flavor of the month. They're everywhere because of Tom Brady.
I said in the world. In the world.
Only because your Texas culture is so good at...
In the world. There's no debate about that.
One of the anecdotes in your favor is that in Scandinavia, if you're throwing a big party, one of the slang words for it is that you're throwing a Texas. And that's hilarious.
So the Cowboys are the biggest football team in the world. They're the most popular team. Most popular team.
Okay, they're the most lucrative team.
And I feel like their popularity has peaked.
Yeah, I mean, they are the Real Madrid of this sport because they are that annoying.
But the sport,
but they aren't
the sport itself.
But it would be like if Real Madrid hadn't won the Champions League in 20 years. I mean, that's unimaginable.
The sport itself, I think, what the Star Trek quotes you gave in the beginning
about baseball
are really about football.
That's sadly possible. I mean, a guy like me at the time.
What I'm saying is that you can develop baseball into what it needs to be to survive. That's the real American spirit right there.
Yeah, like baseball. Some of the proposed rule changes to baseball I don't necessarily like, and part of the reason it's taken so long for baseball to embrace change is just how traditional it is. I mean,
that's the thing about the American people, American culture in general. It's gonna survive because of its adaptability.
Well, I mean, the same things are going to be true about gridiron football too, as an American-created sport. I mean, basketball's probably never going to need it, but I mean, same for basketball. I mean,
That being said, I think baseball has a really good chance of being number 2, but its biggest competitor is going to be basketball.
And you have to admit, it is one of those scenarios where baseball is arguably one of the funnest sport to play for a lot of people. And I mean,
you can be whatever size you are.
Yeah,
be able to play baseball.
That's true. I mean, you can be 300 pounds, play baseball, and be the designated hitter if you can hit. I mean, it's a rare sport where you can do that.
I mean, you can be 5'2" and be Jose Altuve, play for the Houston Cheaters.
Oh my God! Coming from you as a Texan, I mean, obviously you're a Texas Rangers fan, but it's hilarious to hear you say that. I mean, I still can't believe that MLB didn't technically strip that World Series, but like we talked about in other episodes, that is kind of farcical when we were talking about college football.
You can be someone as big as, CC Sabathia.
Right, yeah, pitch. I mean, the same thing applies to pitching too. Yeah, I mean...
what I'm saying is
who's the guy that threw a perfect game for the Yankees? Scott Wells? Is that what his first name was?
I have no idea.
But yeah, he was a big white lefty that was on some of those Yankees World Series teams, I think.
But my point is, you can be any type of person and still be able to play baseball.
Like case in point, Randy Johnson. You look at him and you think he should be playing basketball because he's 6'11". But I mean, all that height adding power behind his fastball.
This goes to my point. What I'm trying to say is that you can be whatever type of person, like physically, and still be able to play baseball, which gives people hope. And I mean that they can contribute to the game of baseball. But then you have this big market behind basketball, and the way basketball players are able to market themselves by being able to own who they are, being able to trade themselves to whatever team they want, to be able to market themselves.
And also,
it's hard to compete with.
And another problem for baseball is that its female counterpart, softball, it's hard to play softball in the same arenas as baseball because of the shortened fence. So some people are like, well, why is the WNBA more popular than professional softball when professional softball is more fun? And I'm it's harder for professional softball to be able to share the Major League Baseball facility because they have to shorten the fence.
The whole women versus men sports thing is a completely different topic.
I know, but I'm just saying as an example for the general basketball versus baseball debate.
So I think soccer will keep its number 1 spot because it's the cheapest sport to play.
Well, arguably basketball's cheaper because for soccer you still have to have shin guards and cleats.
Well, you don't even need like a like an actual goal to play soccer. You need
True.
an actual
You can just
goal
drop.
to
You
play
can just drop down 2 shirts and imagine the height. I mean,
Well, you just keep the ball low. Like if you hit it over a certain height, that's not a goal.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
basketball, you need the goals.
Yeah,
and those are a lot more expensive than shin guards.
But my favorite anecdote about Buddy Hield, one of OU basketball's rare legends, is that growing up in Jamaica, he had to actually cut apart a grocery cart and prop it up on a wooden thing to create his basketball goal, which is not even technically going to be a fair representation because that's square as opposed to a round basket. But I mean, it's all he had, and I mean, he went from that to being a 4-year starter at OU, which props to him for staying 4 years when he probably could have gone to the NBA after 1 or 2. And I mean, it's so annoying that we missed Buddy Hield and Trae Young playing for OU at the same time by 1 year. 1 stinking year. If Buddy Hield had been redshirted, he'd have been a redshirt senior
Sean,
with Trae Young's freshman season.
You're talking about these gross.
Yeah, sorry. I know. I could. Once I brought up Buddy Hield, I couldn't help myself. Okay.
Well, my point was that I think soccer will be number 1. Basketball and baseball will always be right behind it because they've grown such a large popularity. Basketball
and
has a better chance of being number 2 or catching up with soccer.
And it seems unimaginable now, but just because cricket is even slower, it feels like baseball can overtake cricket in India and the UK and the cricket countries eventually.
Well, there you have it. We came up with exactly who's going to stay on top in the sports world in this episode. Sean said that basketball, or what did you say again, Sean?
Okay, let's come up with a final top 10 just to put
just top 3. Top 3.
Okay, well at least top 5. Okay. I feel like worldwide it's going to...
Okay, let me give mine first, and then you can
go ahead.
I think soccer, basketball, and baseball will be right behind it. And that's all I'm giving.
That's your top 3.
I don't think there's any other sports in the world.
I mean, we made a lot of positive, good points about baseball today that a lot of people don't regularly talk about. And let's see. Oh, okay. So, number 1, soccer. Number 2, basketball. And now we're in the weeds. It's really hard because right now, worldwide, you're probably talking cricket or rugby. And we're underselling rugby. Like, gridiron football and rugby are both cousins of the same sport. I mean, at some point in history, future history, gridiron football and rugby are probably going to have some sort of quasi-marriage coming back together for both survival. I mean, we're griping about football's potential survival, and then over here in the rest of the world, rugby is popular with guys not even wearing pads. Which you can argue actually makes it safer because guys have to be more careful how they hit, not wearing pads. I mean, shoot. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was an offensive lineman. I wanted no part of defense. And I mean, football is scary with pads. I mean, rugby without pads? That shit's even scarier. But I mean, rugby does have a major following. So, I mean, it can be argued rugby or cricket is currently number 3 in the world. And I mean, the question is, how much are rugby and gridiron football and cricket and baseball going to partner together, sort of remarry, come back together? Because those are both cousin relationships. Gridiron football, rugby, and cricket, baseball.
If we're talking about imaginary sports here, I mean, Quidditch is right behind baseball.
That's true. Once they have the technology to do Quidditch for real, it'll jump right up the charts, man. I mean, my wife gripes when I patronize her about Harry Potter, and she's like, "I'm eventually gonna have to make you watch those movies, dude." And I'm like, "Well, that's how I eventually got her to give Star Trek Voyager a second chance." So, be like, once we're through with Star Trek Voyager, I owe her a Harry Potter marathon. So,
all right, well. Is that all you had on your list, Sean?
Okay, so I was debating number 3 because that's why I was talking about rugby and cricket in the first place. So,
well, then we'll just match them up into.
Okay, so if we imagine in the future we're just pairing gridiron football and rugby together, then I'd say, okay, cricket, baseball would definitely be number 3 then once you're reintegrating cricket. Hockey has a chance to be 4 just because I don't think it's ever going away from Canada or the Northern Athletic Empires, Russia, your Scandinavias, eventually your UK, your Iceland, your... Where else is hockey played? Your Central Europe, your Eastern Europe. I mean, it's slowly catching popularity in Asia, especially Japan, South Korea, I think, the colder parts of Asia. I mean, and we're also going to realize we're being biased to team sports here. We're not even talking about tennis or golf. I mean, those two are up there too. I mean...
Track is always going to be an Olympic sport.
Well,
Swimming is always going to be an Olympic sport.
Track is always going to be one of those sports that's necessary, but most boring to watch. I mean,
but we're talking about which one is going to be the most popular monetized sport.
Track gets its moment in the sun once every 4 years at the Olympics, which is about to happen again here in a month with the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Finally.
It happens at the end of this month. It's about to start.
Okay, yeah.
It's about to start in like a week.
Right. Well, I needed a break on soccer, but after Euro 2020, casually watching this worthless Gold Cup we have going on right now, that's, obviously this Gold Cup is unnecessary because it's just purely about raising money for CONCACAF. I mean, the U.S. team that's there is only a B or C team. Mexico only sent most of their best because their pride is wounded and they want to win the thing. I mean, outside of Canada not having
Mexico win like 1-0, pretty sad.
Yeah, they only beat El Salvador 1-0 the other day. I mean, we got lucky that Mexico stumbled to win their group, so we would not get stuck having to play them in the semifinals instead of the final. But I mean, and that's if we both don't stumble. CONCACAF has been getting better in recent years. I mean, when we were in junior high and high school, you knew it was going to be a USA-Mexico final, and that's just not true
Let's
anymore.
get back to topic.
Okay, sorry. All right, okay, so, yeah. Okay, well,
So is hockey... What comes after hockey? Is that pretty much it? You can 5 sports.
Okay. Just to make individual sports an entirely separate category. Yeah, I mean that culture is eventually going to get more and more worldwide too. Just because for that culture.
What about esports? Is that
now we're in the weeds? Is that even a sport?
That's what I'm saying, Sean. I think we're getting too much into the weeds here.
Yeah, I mean, but as a similar argument, stock car racing, in my opinion, is actually a sport because I mean, just the physical toll it takes to drive a NASCAR or IndyCar. That's
because you're American.
Hey, some people that love IndyCar would say the same thing. I mean, IndyCar is popular in lots of Europe too.
But that's not a sport that everyone can play.
Well, I'm just saying I believed the other side of the argument before I borrowed NASCAR 09 from my buddy. Then after I,
Sean, there's a big difference between soccer and NASCAR.
Well, I'm not saying NASCAR is anywhere near the top 10. I'm damn it, now I'm trying to remember why I brought it up.
Yeah, but you're just naming sports now.
Okay, all right. So soccer number 1, basketball number 2. Cricket, baseball, cousinship, number 3. If we're talking just team sports, hockey, number 4. And then...
Hey, you've already named 5 sports there.
Yeah. And then I guess gridiron football, rugby, 5. I mean... I guess why I won't let it go is I'm trying to... is there any team sport we actually haven't mentioned that deserves a mention that we haven't gotten around to? That's probably the straw I'm grasping for because I feel like we're forgetting something. I don't want to be embarrassed about it later. But
I mean, you can go at volleyball, and you don't have to be
volleyball.
Embarrassed about it.
Volleyball is
you don't have to be embarrassed about it. There's a reason why we haven't thought about these sports
because we didn't necessarily play them growing up or anything. I mean, volleyball is fun to play, but there's a stigma about it being a female-only sport that volleyball's been fighting for decades.
I mean, but it doesn't show up on
a lot of people's radar.
Yeah.
Which, I mean... But with the sports... You got to remember how much everything about sports has grown. I mean, we've gone in a generation from my parents having 3 television channels only getting to watch the World Cup once every 4 years. Only getting to watch soccer once every 4 years with the World Cup. Having baseball be king, having football, be number 2, having basketball barely be on TV at all. I mean, Bill Simmons.
Sean, we're not talking about the past here. We're talking about the future, and I think we've actually come to our time.
Yeah, we're close to an even hour. Yeah.
So there you go. Sean thinks that those are his.
Okay. My final top 5: soccer, basketball. Your cousinship of
baseball, cricket,
hockey, and then
I think it's going to be soccer and basketball and baseball tied together. That's all the time we have for today, folks. Why don't you hit a like on the Facebook or the YouTube, and then follow us on Twitter, Rivalry Red Podcast.
The Twitter handle is at Rivalry Red. That's what Twitter showed it to when I was creating it.
And then keep listening to us on SoundCloud. We'll have this show out soon on Spotify.
Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube first, and I hope you've enjoyed all the tangents we got thrown on today. I mean, if you like that sort of thing, this is your show, and thank you so much for all of your support.
Yeah, thank you for listening.